Hi, this is Cindy from Part-Time Permies, and today I'll give you a little update on my three sisters' beds and how they're doing. Things are just starting to grow on these beds. Some are starting a little earlier than others, so I'll give you a rundown. The first bed had a lot of summer squash. So we had the yellow summer squash planted over here, and you can see there are a few that are just starting up right here. And there's one over there. I'm missing the one here, but that's all right. We have corn in this bed, and I believe we're getting a few shoots of corn just barely starting as well. Zucchini. This was from seed. That was a start. We had another start in between these two here, which did unfortunately die off, but this one seems to be doing all right, and the one on the end seems to be doing all right. Have some corn that's just barely starting, and have a volunteer potato from last year. It didn't really mean for that one to happen. We also have two volunteer potato plants that are taking off like crazy over here. Well, we'll let them grow. Okay, so we just have barely started some corn, just starting to come up, so we're not ready to put the beans in yet. Over here, this is a fun one. These, from here to the end, are Hubbard squash, so they're nice big squash, and they are expensive to buy. In fact, these plants are descendant from a squash, a Hubbard squash that my husband bought in New York that ended up in our compost and self-planting itself in the compost. And we kept harvesting seeds. So he brought the seeds from New York last year. I think we have another Hubbard starting over here. That's looking kind of interesting on those cotyledons. There's supposed to be another one somewhere around here. I don't see that one starting, but just barely starting. We might get some more soon. Next three sisters' bed was corn in 2 rows. Sunflower seeds in 1 row, and I believe we did melons here. Now this one I don't see as much starting. I think we do have, it might be a melon starting here, so got a few little things. Got a little bit of corn coming up, just barely starting. I see some little shoots of corn in other places. Yeah, there's some corn right there by my water measure, and all the water that's in there is just from sprinklers. We have not had any rain since putting this stuff in at all. Maybe a sprinkle for a few minutes, nothing that would help. So again, we have volunteer English plantains. They'll stay, they're okay. So this is the full-grown, in-flower English plantain. The leaves can get big. As it gets big, it's not as tender, it's not as nice to eat as when they're just starting. But that's the flower of the English plantain. There's a common plantain too that's a little different. It has a wider, rounded leaf, but otherwise looks very similar. And a little different flower. I think the common plantain has a longer flower on it, but completely edible weed. I don't see, on this side we have watermelon that's supposed to be planted, but I don't see them starting yet. Oh, okay. So the third three sisters' bed is sunflower seeds and pumpkins. So if we look at this, on the north edge of this bed right here, you can see these are pumpkins coming in, and that is a sunflower. So again, we're just starting here, but the pie pumpkins are on this side of the bed are doing great. They're taking off. We have some volunteers in here again. Some of them might get pulled. I think that, not sure what the smaller weed is in there. The dandelion, that could stay. It's edible. Again, something's eating my sunflower seedling here. Get this thing pulled away. That's, one good thing about having a heavily mulched bed, so easy to pull the weeds. But these sunflower seeds, they're coming up sporadically through here, just barely starting. There's another one here. This end is supposed to be some small mini pumpkins, but I'm not sure if I see any coming up. I'm not sure. Some of these, I think they're just sunflowers. Okay, so don't see the mini pumpkins. Those were older seeds, so I'm not sure if they're still viable. If not, we can plant some other squash. I do have another mystery squash that could go in here. In fact, one of the areas up there was a mystery squash that I don't see coming up yet. It's hot. But, so those are the three sisters beds, just barely getting their start. So it'll be a couple more weeks before we start really seeing the corn and the sunflowers starting to look strong. So I got to keep on top of watering it because, well, this has come up a couple times in the past. Midweek, we're supposed to get rain. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, scattered thunderstorms. The last 3 times they've said that, it all blew north of us. We may have gotten a slight sprinkle. We didn't get any of the significant rain, nothing that would help the garden. So, good thing we live in the Great Lakes region because we have a lot of groundwater. One, I cheated a little bit on the melon variation of the Three Sisters, and I bought a couple varieties of melons to put in there because I didn't think anything was starting. But as I was putting my melon seedlings in, see if I can find one now, but I did notice a couple of things starting right here at this end. I believe that might be a honeydew. Also noticed just a wee bit growing up there. It might be at one of those mini watermelons because the others aren't starting yet. But and there were a couple others in here in the honeydew section that are a little bit bigger. So right here and right here, and there's a couple right there. So I do have some melons already growing. But what I did was I ended up buying 2 little more standard watermelons. The seeds I had were for a small watermelon, which actually is kind of nice because it's only a couple people here. It's hard to eat a whole watermelon. But so I put those 2 seedlings in regardless. I put 2 seedlings for honeydews in and a couple cantaloupe seedlings in. So we'll see how they do, especially as the corn starts coming up. That's basically my ground cover. So just to give you background on Three Sisters, it is one of the oldest documented companion planting combos that Native Americans did. And the whole idea of it is you put the corn in, corn grows tall, you put beans down at the bottom of the corn. They use the corn as a pole to grow up, as well as they provide nitrogen, so it helps with corn growth. And then the whole idea with the squash is it's really a ground cover. It's also a little prickly. A lot of the squash plants are a little bit prickly, so it might deter some animals from getting through there, but it might not. But it really is a ground cover, so it holds all the moisture in and helps the corn and beans with that aspect. So it is a great combo to try to plant. We did this planting in New York. We didn't really have enough space in New York on our small lot to get a lot of corn planted, and the only thing with corn is you do want larger beds so that they can cross-pollinate easier. Here it's a little larger, but still not huge. And I ran out of corn seeds, so I only have really 1.5 beds planted, which is basically 5 rows of corn. And then I did the same thing with sunflowers, so you can use sunflowers as an alternative to the corn because they provide a nice strong stalk as well. So we do actually have melons coming up in one of our modified Three Sisters planting. And there may be some others that are still coming. So, I mean, this was planted 2 weeks ago, I want to say. I don't think, not last weekend, it must have been 2 weeks ago. So they're just starting. So we'll see how they do. And again, it's been so extremely dry 2 weeks. But again, as I'm digging into the mulch down below, it's not that dry. So the mulch definitely helps that as well. And it is starting to break down just underneath the top layer. So it's adding its own fertilizer to the whole system, which is really nice. So that's update on the Three Sisters bed. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please like, comment, subscribe below if you want to see more of this. And we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so it looks like mom number 3, which is actually the first broody girl, has now abandoned her nest. I don't blame her. I don't blame her. She's been sitting for over a month. So she has 1 gosling and 7 unhatched chicken eggs. So that's unfortunate. But at least we have our gosling here. So we have 3 gosling total from 3 broody girls. That's gosling number 3 for you. And she is super protective of her gosling.